Adaeze was bone-tired. Her feet ached from 12 hours of mopping hospital floors, and the night air outside Lagos General cut right through her thin jacket. She was almost home when she saw the old woman. She was sitting on the curb, right there on Bellows Street, in the kind of rain that doesn't announce itself, just shows up. The woman's dress was soaked through. Her sandals were split at the sole. She had no bag, no phone, nothing. She sat very still, like someone who had given up trying to figure out where to go. Adaeze stopped walking. She had told herself not to stop for strangers. She had learned that lesson already. Lagos taught it hard. But something about the way the woman sat, not crying, not calling out, just sitting there like the world had forgotten she existed, made Adaeze's legs refuse to keep moving. Who was this woman? Why was she here, alone, on a night like this? And what would happen to her if no one stopped? Adaeze walked closer and lifted her umbrella over both of them. "Ma," she said gently, "why are you sitting out here like this?" The old woman looked up. Her eyes were tired but sharp. She looked at Adaeze the way old people look when they are deciding whether to trust you. "I came to find my daughter," the woman said. Her voice was slow, careful. "She works at a hospital near here." Adaeze crouched down. "Which hospital?" The woman shook her head. "I don't remember the name. My phone is gone. Everything is gone." She looked at her empty hands. "A man on the bus. He took my bag when I was not paying attention." Adaeze felt something squeeze inside her chest. "Do you know your daughter's phone number?" she asked. The woman closed her eyes. "I used to. I cannot remember now." She looked ashamed. "My memory is not what it used to be." Adaeze looked at the empty street. It was past 10. The market stalls were closed. The generators hummed behind iron gates. There was no one else. She thought about her own small apartment 3 blocks away. 1 room, a mattress she had bought in installments, a hot plate and a kettle, almost nothing. And then she looked at the woman again, at her soaked dress, at her hands shaking not just from cold, but from something deeper. "Come with me," Adaeze said quietly. "At least for tonight." The woman stared at her. "You don't know me. I know you shouldn't be sitting here in the rain," Adaeze replied. A long silence passed between them. Then the woman nodded, slowly, like someone setting down something heavy. Her name was Mama Tunde. She told Adaeze that on the walk over, in pieces, the way very old people tell things, she had come from Ibadan by bus. Her daughter had moved to Lagos 2 years ago for a new job, a big job. Mama Tunde said it with quiet pride. She had not visited before. She had been waiting until she felt strong enough to make the trip. "She will be worried," Mama Tunde said as they walked through Adaeze's door. "We will find her," Adaeze said. "I promise." The apartment was exactly what it was, small. But Adaeze had a dry towel and a pot of leftover pepper soup on the stove. She warmed it and set it in front of Mama Tunde without making it a big thing. That night, after Mama Tunde slept, Adaeze lay awake and stared at the ceiling. She thought about the woman's daughter, whoever she was, sitting somewhere in this city right now, probably not sleeping either, probably checking her phone every few minutes, probably afraid. Meanwhile, across Lagos, in an apartment on the 14th floor of a building on Victoria Island, a woman named Dr. Chiamaka Ose sat at her desk and could not work. She had tried. She had the reports open, the hospital files, the numbers she was supposed to review before tomorrow's board meeting. But her hands kept reaching for her phone. Her mother had called that morning to say she was already on the bus. That was the last call. Chiamaka had called back 14 times. Nothing. She had called the bus company. She had called the hotel where she had booked a room for her mother. The hotel said she never checked in. Chiamaka stood up and walked to the window. Lagos at night was still full of light. Cars moving, streets alive. Somewhere in all of it, her mother was either safe or not, and she could not tell which. She had tried to bring Mama Tunde here years ago, right when she got the job, right after the promotion. She had a second bedroom now. She had a driver. She could finally give her mother a soft life. But Mama Tunde had said no. "I like my home," she had said simply. "My neighbors know me. My church is 2 streets away. What will I do in Lagos?" Chiamaka had not pushed. "You did not push, Mama Tunde. You just waited. And then last week the call came. I am coming to visit my daughter." Just like that. Chiamaka had cried after hanging up. Happy tears, the embarrassing kind. She had called her assistant to make arrangements. She had bought new bed sheets for the guest room. She had told herself everything was finally coming together. Now she stood at the window, and her coffee had gone cold, and she was bargaining quietly with God. She was the chief medical officer of Westbridge Private Hospital, the youngest CMO in the hospital's history. Her name was in newspapers and on hospital plaques. None of that felt like anything tonight. Just please, she thought. Just let her be safe. Her assistant, a quiet young man named Marcus, called just after midnight. He had driven around the bus terminal. He had spoken to drivers. He had filed a report with the police. Her mother's name and photo were now officially in the system. That's all we can do tonight, Ma, Marcus said carefully. Chiamaka thanked him and hung up. Then she sat in the dark for a long time. The next morning, Adaeze woke early. It was her half-day shift. She made tea and found Mama Tunde already sitting up, holding her hands together in her lap. "Good morning, Ma. Good morning, my daughter." Adaeze sat beside her. "How are you feeling?" Mama Tunde looked at the small room around her. The worn curtains, the clean floor, the single-framed photograph on the wall, Adaeze and a woman who must have been her mother. She looked at it for a moment. "I am better," she said, "because of you." Adaeze shook her head. "You would have done the same." Mama Tunde smiled. "You don't know that." They were quiet for a while. Then Adaeze said, "I was thinking, can you describe your daughter? Her full name? What she does?" Mama Tunde thought carefully. "Her name is Chiamaka. She is a doctor, a big doctor. She is in charge of a hospital." She said it again with that quiet pride. She worked very hard for it. Adaeze nodded and kept her face calm, even though something had started moving at the back of her mind. She didn't let it form yet. "Don't worry," Adaeze said. "On my day off tomorrow, we will go to the police station together. They may have news already." Mama Tunde's eyes filled. "You will come with me?" "Of course." That morning at work, Adaeze moved through the hospital floors the way she always did, quietly, efficiently. She had been a cleaner at Westbridge Private Hospital for 2 years. She had a university degree in public health administration. She had applied for over 60 positions in health management and heard back from none of them. The cleaning job paid the rent, so she cleaned. She was good at making herself invisible at work. The doctors and consultants moved through the halls and looked through her like glass. That was fine. She had learned to be fine with it. There was one person, though, who did not look through her, who made it a point not to. Her name was Mrs. Adaeze, the hospital's deputy administrator, a woman in her early 50s with hair cut close to her head and shoes that clicked on the tile like a countdown. She walked through Westbridge like she owned every inch of it, because in practical terms she did. Mrs. Adaeze had her favorites on the administrative staff, and everyone knew it. She had her enemies too, and everyone knew that as well. She spoke to the cleaning staff the way someone speaks to furniture that has moved itself into an inconvenient position. Sharp, dismissive, occasionally mean in ways she could deny later. Adaeze had once been scrubbing a hallway near the executive offices when Mrs. Adaeze stopped and said, loudly enough for passing nurses to hear, "If the floors were actually clean, I wouldn't be able to smell whatever you cooked last night." Adaeze had kept her face still. She had kept scrubbing. She had told herself what she always told herself. "This job is a bridge. I will cross it." She was crossing it still. That same morning, Dr. Chiamaka Adaeze arrived at Westbridge before 7. She had not slept. Her driver had waited in the parking lot all night at her instruction, in case there was news that required her to move quickly. She walked through the hospital, and everyone who saw her face knew something was wrong. She returned greetings briefly. She moved with the controlled urgency of someone keeping panic below the surface by willpower alone. Mrs. Adaeze saw her in the corridor and immediately fell into beside her. "Dr. Adaeze, the board meeting is at 9. I've prepared the summary. Push it to 11, Chiamaka said without breaking stride. Mrs. Adaeze blinked. "The board members flew in from 11, Chiamaka said again, quietly and finally. Mrs. Adaeze stopped walking. She stood in the corridor watching Chiamaka disappear around the corner. Then she smiled thinly to herself and kept moving. Inside her office, Chiamaka sat with her phone face up on the desk. She stared at it. She thought about her mother's face, the way Mama Tunde always smelled like shea butter and fried plantain, the way she hummed to herself while cooking, tunelessly, not noticing she was doing it. Her intercom buzzed. She pressed it. "What is it?" Ma, the police called, Marcus said. They still don't have any confirmed sightings, but they say the search is ongoing. Chiamaka closed her eyes. Thank you. The day moved around her like water around a stone. Late afternoon, Adaeze finished her shift and began packing her cleaning cart. She was tired in the specific way of people who carry other people's messes all day. Her lower back ached, her feet were swollen inside her shoes. She turned a corner and walked directly into someone. Sorry, she said quickly, stepping back. No, I'm sorry, said the other person. Adaeze looked up. It was Dr. Adaeze, the CMO. Adaeze had seen her before, from a distance, but never this close. Up close, the woman looked nothing like the composed face on the hospital's wall plaques. She looked like someone holding herself together through great effort. Her eyes were red at the edges. Her hands were tight at her sides. Adaze's mouth started to move toward the standard, "Have a good evening," that she gave to every senior staff member. But then she saw the woman's face more clearly. She stopped. Are you okay? Adaeze asked. Dr. Adaeze looked at her. Something in her expression shifted. No one had asked her that today, not once. I'm all right, she said automatically. Then she paused. No, she seemed surprised by her own honesty. I'm not. Adaeze looked at her for a moment. I hope whatever it is gets better soon. She started to step aside. Dr. Adaeze spoke. What's your name? Adaeze turned back. Adaeze, ma. Adaeze nodded slowly. She looked like she was about to say something else, then changed her mind. Thank you, Adaeze, for asking. Adaeze walked home. She thought about the woman's face the whole way. All that power, she thought. And she looks like the ground is moving under her feet. She thought about what could make someone like that fall apart. And then, before she could stop it, the thought finished forming. A big doctor, a CMO in charge of a hospital. Mamatundi's words from the morning returned. Adaeze stopped walking. She started to run. Mamatunde was sitting on the edge of the bed when Adaeze burst through the door. She looked up, startled. Mamatunde asked. Adaeze caught her breath. Ma, your daughter? You said her name is Chiamaka? Yes. She is a doctor? She runs a hospital? Mamatunde sat up straighter. Yes, she is in charge of the whole hospital. Which hospital did you say? I did not say. Mamatunde's eyes had gone wide. Why? Do you know her? Adaeze sat down. Her heart was moving fast. I think she works where I work, Ma. I think Chiamaka is my CMO. Mamatunde put her hand over her mouth. Her eyes filled immediately. She is looking for you, Adaeze said quickly. I can see it on her face. She does not know we know each other. She is frightened. My daughter, Mamatunde whispered. She reached for Adaze's hand and held it tightly. Please, take me to her. Adaeze thought for 1 second. Then, she said, Tomorrow morning I will take you to the hospital. I will bring you to her. Mamatunde pulled her into a hug that was stronger than Adaeze expected. Old people always surprised her that way. That night, neither of them slept much. Mamatunde sat and held her hands in her lap and talked quietly about Chiamaka, about how stubborn she had been as a small girl, how she had read every book in their neighborhood before she was 12, how she had gotten on the bus to university with one bag and come back a doctor. Adaeze listened. She thought about Dr. Adaze's face in that corridor, the careful way she had held herself, the redness at the edges of her eyes. Tomorrow, she thought. Tomorrow they find each other. Morning came hard and bright. Adaeze dressed plainly. Mamatunde wore her best blouse, the one she had packed in her small bag, somehow spared from the theft. They took a bus to the hospital together. When they walked through the main entrance, things started immediately. Heads turned. People stared. A woman at the reception desk frowned and leaned forward. Some staff members whispered to each other behind clipboards. Adaeze kept her eyes straight ahead. She held Mamatunde's hand. Then the clicking started. Mrs. Adaeze was crossing the lobby. She stopped when she saw them. She looked at Mamatunde the way she looked at everything she considered beneath her, slowly, from feet upward. Excuse me, Mrs. Adaeze said. Her voice carried. It always carried. Where do you think you're going? Adaeze said calmly. We're here to see someone. Mrs. Adaeze looked at Adaeze with recognition, the kind of recognition that carries contempt. You're the cleaning staff. Why are you bringing her? She stopped, chose her word poorly anyway. This woman does not belong in this lobby. Mamatunde said with quiet dignity, I came to see my daughter. Mrs. Adaeze laughed once, short and sharp. Your daughter? And who is your daughter? Mama Tunde looked at her steadily. Dr. Adaeze. The lobby went very quiet. Mrs. Adaeze's laugh died. Something moved across her face. Then she recovered quickly and smiled with no warmth at all. That is not possible. You must be confused. I am not confused, Mama Tunde said. The CMO's mother would not arrive at this hospital dressed like Mrs. Adaeze let the look on her face finish the sentence. Adaeze felt the heat rise in her. It happened fast. 2 days of watching this old woman hold herself together with nothing but grace, and now this. Stop, Adaeze said. Loud enough, clear enough. Mrs. Adaeze turned to her with the expression of someone who has never been interrupted in her life. She is an elder, Adaeze said. You will not speak to her that way. Not here. Not anywhere. The lobby held its breath. Mrs. Adaeze's face went very still. Do you understand what you are doing to your employment right now? Adaeze looked at her evenly. I understand that someone's mother is standing here having been robbed, having spent the night on a stranger's floor, having come through a hard journey to find her child, and you are talking to her about her dress. A few nurses near the corridor had gone completely still. A doctor had stopped halfway through his phone call. Mrs. Adaeze opened her mouth. The elevator doors opened. Dr. Adaeze walked out with her phone already in her hand and her mind on something else. She almost walked past them. Then some old reflex stopped her. Something familiar in the air. The particular way someone held their shoulders. She turned. Mama Tunde was already moving. Chiamaka. The phone dropped. Dr. Adaeze covered the distance between them in 3 steps and her arms went around her mother and she didn't say anything. She couldn't. She just held on. Mama Tunde pressed her face into her daughter's shoulder and held her the way mothers hold children, completely, like they are trying to pour something back in. People in the lobby looked away instinctively, the way people do when they have accidentally witnessed something true. Chiamaka was crying. She was not trying to stop. Mama, she finally said. Just that. I'm here, Mama Tunde said. I found you. I was looking everywhere. I know. Mama Tunde pulled back and touched her daughter's face with both hands. I was safe. I was taken care of. Chiamaka lifted her eyes. They moved around the lobby and found Adaeze standing a few feet away, holding her bag with both hands, trying to be small. Mama Tunde followed her daughter's gaze. This girl, Mama Tunde said. This is the one. She took me into her home. She fed me. She brought me here. Chiamaka looked at Adaeze. Adaeze looked back and found she didn't know where to put her face. Come here, Chiamaka said. Adaeze walked over slowly. Chiamaka took her hands. She held them for a moment without speaking. What is your name? Adaeze ma. Adaeze. Chiamaka said it carefully, like she was making sure she would not forget it. You kept my mother safe. She would have done the same, Adaeze said. Mama Tunde made a sound that was almost a laugh. Chiamaka turned. Mrs. Adaeze had not moved. She was still standing nearby with a wide, hurried smile that had appeared sometime in the last 90 seconds. Dr. Adaeze, Mrs. Adaeze said quickly, I was just helping your mother get situated. I was about to come and find you. Chiamaka looked at her for a long moment. It was a particular kind of look. The kind that doesn't need to be angry to be final. Marcus, Chiamaka said, without raising her voice. Her assistant appeared from the side corridor immediately. Please arrange a meeting with HR for this afternoon. She didn't look at Mrs. Adaeze again. Mrs. Adaeze will need to be present. The lobby said nothing. It didn't need to. Mrs. Adaeze stood very still. Chiamaka turned back to Adaeze and her mother. Let's go somewhere quieter, she said. They went to Chiamaka's office. It was large and full of afternoon light. Mama Tunde sat in one of the wide chairs by the window and sighed like someone finally allowed to exhale. Chiamaka sat across from Adaeze and said, Tell me about yourself, so Adaeze told her. The degree in Public Health Administration, the 60 applications, the cleaning job that was supposed to be temporary and had now been 2 years. She told it plainly, without apology and without drama. Chiamaka listened the way doctors listen when they are actually paying attention. She did not interrupt. When Adaeze finished, Chiamaka was quiet for a moment. I came to Lagos with one bag, she said finally. I was 24 years old and I had a degree, and I slept on a cousin's floor for 7 months before I got my first real position. She looked at Adaeze directly. It doesn't always go the way it should. That's not your fault. Adaeze didn't know what to do with that, so she just nodded. Chiamaka said. Westbridge has been trying to fill a health programs coordinator position for 4 months. The hiring committee keeps rejecting candidates. Your background in public health administration is exactly what that role needs. She paused. If you want to interview for it, the interview is a formality. I'll make that clear to the committee. Adaeze sat very still. There's also a salary adjustment that comes with the position, Chiamaka added. And the hospital has a staff housing arrangement. You would qualify. Adaeze's hands were shaking very slightly. She pressed them together in her lap. Ma, she said carefully, you don't have to do this. I know I don't have to, Chiamaka said. My mother slept on your mattress and ate your food, and you didn't ask for anything. You brought her here. And when someone tried to humiliate her in my own lobby, you were the one who said something. She was quiet. I don't do things I don't mean. Mama Tunde from her chair by the window said softly, I told you, my daughter. Adaeze couldn't speak for a moment. Then she said, yes, I would like that very much. Chiamaka smiled. For the first time in 2 days, it reached her eyes. That evening, they had dinner together in Chiamaka's apartment on Victoria Island. The guest room was ready, and Mama Tunde settled into it like she had been expected all along. They ate jollof rice and fried fish and talked until it was late, the kind of talking that happens when people realize they have more in common than they expected. Chiamaka asked about Adaeze's family. Adaeze asked about the hospital's early days. Mama Tunde fell asleep in her chair before dessert, and they let her stay. Adaeze walked home that night in a different city than the one she had walked through for 2 years. Same streets, same generators humming behind iron gates. But something had shifted, and she could feel it in her feet. Weeks passed. Adaeze started the new position on a Monday. She was given a small office with a window and a desk and a chair that rolled properly. She wore the same simple clothes she had always worn, and people learned to knock before entering. She was good at the work, quietly, efficiently good, the same way she had been good at the other work. But this time, the work used the part of her she had kept folded away for 2 years. And that made a difference. Mrs. Adaeze was no longer deputy administrator. The details were handled without announcement, and the lobby did not discuss it openly, but everyone knew. The hospital moved on in the way institutions move on, with adjusted habits and rearranged silences. Mama Tunde stayed for 3 weeks before going back to Ibadan. On her last evening, she and Adaeze sat together on Chiamaka's balcony and watched the city below them. You know, Mama Tunde said, when I was sitting on that curb in the rain, I prayed. I said, Lord, just send me one good person, just one. Adaeze looked at her. He is never late, Mama Tunde said simply. Adaeze did not say anything. She sat with that for a while. Chiamaka, standing in the doorway with 2 cups of tea, heard it and stayed where she was for a moment before coming out to join them. The 3 of them sat in the warm evening air, and it was ordinary and it was not ordinary at all. And the city below them moved on the way cities do, not knowing or caring what had shifted in the lives of 3 women above it. Sometimes that is how it happens. A curb in the rain. A girl who stops walking when she should not have. A choice that takes 30 seconds and changes everything. Kindness does not announce itself. It just shows up. And when it does, something in the world quietly adjusts.